Welcome to Beat Diabetes. I don't have anything too deep or heavy for you today, but I think it can be helpful to some. And I want to talk about restaurants and how you find things to eat there. I went to an Italian restaurant the other day with my son and a couple of grandkids, his two sons. That's right, an Italian restaurant. There was a time when I just wouldn't go to an Italian restaurant. Someone suggested, I would just say, well, I have to eat low carb. I can't go to one. And then I realized, yeah, there are some things I can eat at Italian restaurants. So here was my meal. And of course, it was grilled chicken on a Caesar salad. Perfectly low carb. The one thing that I did leave behind was the croutons. Actually, I should have just told them, please don't add croutons. But in this case, they brought that salad with the croutons, I guess you could call them. And I just dumped them. So very low carb. The dressing normally on a Caesar salad is low carb. So I did just fine. Now, when you think of Italian restaurants, what do you normally think of? Well, you think of bread for one thing, and you think of pasta for another. And while we're on that subject, I thought I would make this point that maybe some of you haven't thought about. A lot of times we talk about testing to find out where our glucose peaks, and that's always been my big goal. I want to know how high is my glucose going to go before it turns around, does a U-turn, and heads south. So I want to find out my peak, and generally speaking, that is somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half after I eat. I kind of settle on 1 hour, 15 minutes normally, but foods are different. So, for example, if you compare a soft bread, such as this bread roll, with pasta or a tortilla, they break down at a much different rate. The soft bread, such as a bread roll or sliced bread, that will break down lightning fast, and you'll get your peak within an hour, hour and 15 minutes easily. On the other hand, tortillas that are so thinly pressed and compacted together, you might almost say they're glued together, they're going to break down much slower. And the same thing is true with pasta. Pasta will break down much slower than normal bread. Now, what this means is if you test an hour after eating and you've just had a bunch of pasta, or you've just had a tortilla or a couple of tortillas, you may check your blood sugar and say, well, I got away with it. I was at 98 before the meal, and here it is an hour later, and I'm at only 115. I did real good. But that's not quite the whole story. So if you're testing after a tortilla meal or after a pasta meal, you probably ought to wait at least 2 hours after you finish eating to allow those bread types to fully break down, sometimes as much as 3 hours. I've had tortillas where I tested, and it was only at the 3 hour after eating mark that they really showed what they could do to my glucose. So don't be fooled if you test an hour after eating pasta or tortillas, and there would be other forms of bread that don't break down too quickly, and you seem like you got away with it, you may not have. And one other low-carb meal that is usually available at Italian restaurants is salmon with a side order of broccoli. It tastes just as good as the pasta meals, but it will not spike your blood sugar. Can't beat it. Anyway, there's almost no restaurant anymore that I would refuse to go. I found a way to get around the high carb problem at almost any and every restaurant. So I no longer tell people, well, I can't go there because I have to eat low carb for my blood sugar. I just say, if they say, well, I'd like to go here, I'd be like, okay, let's go there. I know I'll find something. For example, McDonald's. I go to McDonald's, and a lot of times if it's morning, I'll have a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. You say, well, that can't be too good for your blood sugar. Well, yeah, it actually can, as long as I take off the top and the bottom bun. And normally I'll take the entire top bun off and I'll shave the bottom and just kind of cut away most of it, but maybe leave just a little bit of bread on the bottom for the taste and to keep my fingers from getting too messy. and it is not a problem. So that's often my go-to meal when I go there for breakfast with somebody. I normally wouldn't go there by myself, but if someone wants to have breakfast with me, I have no problem going to McDonald's. I know McDonald's is not the healthiest kind of food, and you can talk about the preservatives they put in things, and all kinds of how they fry their burgers even. But to do it occasionally, I don't have a problem with. And speaking of burgers, my go-to meal if I go to McDonald's for lunch is simply to get 2 McDoubles. And a McDouble, I've never quite figured out how a McDouble differs from a double cheeseburger, but basically a McDouble is like a double cheeseburger. You get 2 patties. So if I get 2 McDoubles, that means I've got 4 beef patties. Get rid of all the bread and just eat those 4 patties. And it's a little messy on the fingers, but it satisfies me, and I'm good. And I've had a nice little meal. It's basically a carnivore meal. There's just no restaurant that I've ever found yet that I can't make something work. Sometimes if you order a steak, they'll give you automatically a side of some type of potato. So it'd be like, do you want French fries with that steak, or do you want baked potato with that steak? Some kind of a potato. And I will tell them, no, I don't want a potato, but I'd like to substitute a salad, a side salad. A lot of times they'll do that at no cost. Sometimes they'll add a surcharge of $1, maybe $2. And it's a price I'm glad to pay. So you don't have to be afraid of restaurants occasionally. I know some of our super health people that want no preservatives. They want everything done just right. They want to check out the cow that was killed to make sure he only ate grass. And I don't go that far, as you would know if you watch this channel very, very long. But on the other hand, I don't eat out a lot anyway. I eat out occasionally, maybe once, twice a month at the most. And but when I do, I just determine to enjoy myself. And I have to say, life is bigger than just what you eat. Now, I am very careful about keeping my carbs low, because I know that my life could be cut short if I end up keeping my glucose too high. So I'm determined to be low carb, but there's a lot of things I don't worry too much about. And one thing I do continually believe, and that is that life is really more about relationships than it is about food. Yeah, I'll eat low carb, but relationships are vital. And part of relationships, at least in America, is to go out to restaurants once in a while. And I know there are some people that say, well, Dennis, it's real simple. Just don't go out to any restaurant. Eat at home all the time. Every day, every week, every month, every year, just eat at home, one meal after another. And yeah, you can do that. But my life's bigger than that, folks, and I want to go out from time to time and enjoy a meal with people that I love, even if I don't have as many choices. That's the difference between me and the people I usually eat out with, and that is they have the run of the restaurant. They can eat anything they want. They can just look at the menu, and they can spend minutes and minutes checking out what they want to eat. With me, I usually know in advance what I'm going to eat because I've scoped it out and I know what's low carb. There aren't as many choices. So I don't have the luxury of just choosing anything I want. But that's, again, a small price to pay for normal glucose. And that's my goal, is to have normal glucose and relatively normal insulin going on in my body. And with that and faith in God, we'll just see how far it goes with me. I'm 71 now. Will I make it to 80? Only God knows. Will I make it to 90 like Dr. Bernstein? Can't say. But I'm determined to do the low carb thing, but I'm also determined to enjoy my life. What shall it profit a man? What shall it profit a woman if they eat so carefully and they eat such a healthy diet? They live to be 125. But they have almost no relationships and they have no fun in life. What profit is that? So my counsel is stay low carb and enjoy your life and enjoy the lovely people that God has brought into your life. In addition to Beat Diabetes, Benedict and I do have another YouTube channel and another type of ministry. I'm referring to our Bible teaching channel, which goes by my name, Dennis Pollock. While you can only see Benedicta with me on Beat Diabetes occasionally, you can see us study the Bible together at our dining room table every Thursday. With all that we're doing, producing hundreds of videos and podcasts, sponsoring African missions, helping diabetics reverse their diabetes, giving food to African widows, and sponsoring free medical clinics in Nigeria and Kenya, we need your help. Please consider making regular contributions to Spirit of Grace Ministries.